All these theories are good for surviving a zombie outbreak, but could one actually happen? What could cause a worldwide zombie apocalypse? A neurotoxin is a poison which affects the nervous system of humans. How could this possibly relate to zombieism? In Haiti in 1962, Clervius Narcisse was declared dead by 2 doctors and buried. It was said he died of natural causes. He was found 18 years later wandering around the village. The Haitian government and local voodoo priests had been practicing using natural neurotoxins to poison the population and turn them into walking zombies to work in sugar plantations.
The most famous documented case of a zombie is the story of Clervius Narcisse. It not only provoked much speculation in Haiti, but intrigued researchers in the rest of the world. On April 30th, 1962, Clervius Narcisse arrived at Albert Schweitzer Hospital in Haiti, complaining of fever and body aches.
Ok, nous avons un patient qui est venu à l'hôpital là, Narcisse Clervius. Il était venu à l'hôpital là, il a consulté lui, après ça il est mort.
His 2 attending physicians, both American trained, pronounced Clervius Narcisse dead, and he was buried the next day. "18 years later, Angelina Narcisse was walking through the marketplace in her village when she was approached by a man claiming to be her brother Clervius. He used his childhood nickname, which only close family members could have known. He told her of his ordeal so many years ago. As he lay in his hospital bed, unable to move, he remained aware of all the events unfolding around him. He heard the doctors' voices pronounce his death, felt the sheet pulled over his face, heard Angelina weep at his bedside. Time passed. Suddenly the coffin lid was thrown open. He was pulled from the ground, beaten, bound, gagged, and dragged away. Narcisse ended up on a sugar plantation where he and other men like him were made to work in the fields. According to Haitian folklore, he was a zombie.
Not only is a zombie infection possible, but it's already happened. Many people are saying that a zombie apocalypse could be happening right now. A series of events in Florida point towards a mass infection. There have been many hazmat incidents and cases of assault. The following news clips show the most gruesome of these events.
Right now, new at 11 for you, new information on that horrific attack by the MacArthur Causeway. Police were forced to open fire on a naked man who refused to stop chewing the face off of another man. We look into what could have caused this attack, and we have new details on just how much of the victim's face was literally bitten off. CBS 4's Tiffany Helberg spoke to a police officer who was at the crime scene. She joins us live from Miami. And Tiffany, the officer believes the man clearly was on some very, very powerful drugs.
That's right, Cynthia. The Fraternal Order of Police president tells me this crop of LSD is a major threat to police officers as well as the rest of us. He says it turns normal people into monsters that possess this superhuman strength and no ability to feel pain. He believes that's what was behind the incident that unfolded here Saturday in broad daylight just off the MacArthur Causeway exit right next to the Miami Herald. And it was the Herald's surveillance video that caught much of it on tape. Now, we want to warn you, much of the details you're about to hear are disturbing and gruesome.
It totally horrified me. This was probably in my 30 years as a police officer, the nastiest, most horrific incident I've ever seen.
An incident partially caught on camera by Miami Herald surveillance. Fraternal Order of Police President Armando Aguilar says that cop had no choice but to shoot when he found a naked man chewing away at another man's face.
Had his face completely eaten from the top of his forehead to almost his jaw. It wasn't just that he was being bit, it's that the person was actually swallowing pieces of his face.
His cannibalistic attacker unfazed by the officer's commands to stop.
When the police approached him, he turned around and growled and kept attacking the victim on the floor.
That's when he says the officer shot him.
The initial shots had no effect. He had to repeatedly shoot him about 4 times until the man collapsed.
The naked attacker now dead on the sidewalk. There he is on the left. His now faceless victim lay on the ground next to him, likely writhing in pain as sources say he no longer had eyes or a nose.
I can only imagine, and by talking to the officer, I see that he's totally traumatized. It was like something out of a horror movie.
Aguilar says this is the worst out of about 4 similar cases in Dade County to happen recently. In other incidents, the people have admitted to taking a new strain of what they're calling bad LSD.
Their body temperature reaches such a high degree that they have to take all their clothes off because they're basically melting from the inside.
He says that was a case just blocks away on Bayshore Drive. That was in March when a bloody naked man who had been hit by a cab growled at police and showed superhuman strength when they tried to help him.
There was more than 10 or 15 officers on the scene, and even after they tasered the man 2 or 3 times, he was still able to take a baton away from one of our officers and severely damage her arm.
Scary stuff. Now, I'm told that man from the March incident did survive. As for the man related to this incident off the MacArthur Causeway who was attacked in the face, we know he is currently hospitalized in critical condition. Live in downtown Miami, Tiffany Help.
And right now at 6, we now know the identity of the man whose face was gnawed off during a struggle on the MacArthur Causeway.
Plus, we've learned disturbing new information about the past of the man accused in that horrific attack. Could it all have been avoided? The victim is a 65-year-old homeless man who may have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Local 10's Glenna Milberg is live from Jackson Memorial Hospital with the latest on his condition.
Lori, Calvin, critical is his condition, and by all accounts, 3/4 of his face is essentially missing. His name is Ronald Popo, as you said, 65-year-old homeless man. We have known his identity for a few days. We've held off until police could notify his next of kin. He was known to camp, if you will, his homeless home near the MacArthur, but right near it is unclear whether he knew or how he knew Rudy Eugene before that horrific attack on Saturday. Now let's talk about Rudy Eugene. You've heard some police theorize he was on some drug-induced psychosis. Well, other police officers we met today, as well as Eugene's ex-wife, called him possibly mentally ill. And so we explored that today, and you might be surprised about what we found.
8 years before an officer shot Rudy Eugene to halt Saturday's frenzied, ravaging, cannibalistic attack, this North Miami Beach officer witnessed Eugene's bizarre behavior, arrested him at his mother's home in 2004 for beating her and threatening to kill her.
We can hear him yelling and throwing things inside the house.
In fact, Eugene made history that day as the first person ever tasered by an NMB officer, and records show it took 3 times to subdue him.
He wasn't cooperative. He wouldn't follow orders. He was very belligerent. He had that 1,000-yard stare that he's just staring, right into you. And
Mike Pond says Eugene may have been mentally ill, but had no history to go on.
That's pretty horrific, and it's pretty sad.
Miami-Dade Judge Steve Leifman has seen horrifying sadness. We caught up with him on his way to China, where he was invited to speak on the court's internationally known diversion program he created that gets help, not jail time, for the mentally ill. Despite Eugene's repeated arrests and erratic behavior, he was never referred to that program.
And we're getting much more sophisticated at that, but 4 years ago, which was the last time we really would have had a shot to get him, he just never came into the mental health part of it, unfortunately.
That 2008 arrest on drug charges was Eugene's most recent.
Rudy Eugene.
He stood quietly for his bond hearing that took less than a minute that day. He was eventually found guilty, but the court suspended his sentence, writing, "The defendant is not likely to engage in a criminal course of conduct." Eugene proved that prediction wrong Saturday.
This is Glenna Milberg reporting to us live. Glenna, do we have you back there?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you now, Glenna. We can see you as well. Glenna, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Laura. Yes, what I was going to say, excuse the technical difficulties, you know, Miami detectives hope to learn so much more about what happened on Saturday from Ronald Poppo, but, you know, it will be such a long time before anyone here can really say whether he'll pull through.
As we can see, the threat of a zombie apocalypse is more than just a distant fear in today's world. It could happen tomorrow, or it could never happen. One thing remains certain, however. As long as there are zombie enthusiasts to make crazy theories, zombies will remain as a prominent part of pop culture for years to come.
That's great, it starts with an earthquake, birds and snakes, an airplane, and Lenny Bruce is not afraid. I have a hurricane, listen to yourself, churn world serves its own needs, dummy serve your own